Just thought I might make a quick video just talking about what I said yesterday on a video, and it got a little bit complicated with the physics terminology and stuff like that. So today I decided to explain it a little better through the use of diagrams. So I thought I might explain it through that, and I'm being really contradictory today wearing a Superman t-shirt. So this is kind of in relation to the term interference, and in physics that's in relation to like waveforms and frequency and stuff like that. And I was going to do it today based on belief systems. So just kind of bear with me on this. So just imagine that each waveform is a belief. So just keep that in mind. So each curvature is a belief. So just to go over the first part. So you see here, these waveforms, these two lines are actually parallel to one another. They follow each other quite evenly. And when they go through something what's called superposition, which is this line here, and it comes through the other side, it actually becomes reinforced and it becomes bigger. And this is called constructive superposition. So just to go over that first. And then the second part, you notice here, this is actually called destructive superposition. So when it's gone through the other side, superposition, the waveform actually becomes weaker. And you notice with these ones, they're not actually necessarily parallel to each other, they're like opposite mirror reflections. And this is called destructive superposition. So just to go over that first. Now, I wanted to say that first because in relation to like belief systems and stuff like that, when we talk about belief systems of, we have, really the mind has no real concept of what's real. And this is kind of a confusing thing because it's really only our eyes can determine what is real by what we physically see. But when our mind is trying to determine what's real, it's relying on our belief systems to determine that. And it's called neuroplasticity. And when you believe something, when you engrave something into your subconscious and you believe it consistently and you believe it, say for example, you want to lose a stone. And you say, I can lose a stone, I can lose a stone, I can lose a stone. No matter what, you're actually kind of making that pathway stronger, and you're driving it into your subconscious, you're embedding it into your subconscious. And it makes you, it allows you to believe that it's possible and it feels real. And it drives it into almost like your memory bank, so to speak. And typically when, for example, if you initially believe that, so I want to lose this, I can lose this, and then someone tells you you can't, or you tell yourself you can't, this is what I'm talking about. That's that interference, that kind of cognitive dissonance. And in relation to the diagrams, usually, for example, if you imagine, like I said, each waveform, each line is a belief. When you believe you can do something, that line gets reinforced with another waveform, and it becomes stronger, it becomes, it becomes reinforced to the point that it actually becomes like a force multiplier. Oppositely, and this is called constructive superposition. So again, constructive, something that builds upon each other, increases. And if you think of it oppositely, if this is your belief here, I can lose this, I know I can lose such and such amount of weight, and then you say, oh no, I can't lose it, and you say something polar opposite to that, the waveform weakens. And it's the same with our belief system. When you kind of say, I can do it, and then someone tells you you can't, and you believe that, the waveform goes from being almost like a positive to a negative really, really quickly, and it loses its strength. And I'm saying that because, to drive habits in us, and, I always say that, we create our habits, and then our habits create us. And it's so true, and that isn't just physical habits, it's also mental habits as well. What you continue to believe tends to unfold, and kind of what consumes your mind controls your life. So you have to be really careful, and when, like I said, when you have one belief and then someone says, you can't do that, you have to be careful, because that's usually, again, the breaking point of when you can go from believing something to disbelief, if that makes sense, if you begin to believe in that. So to combat that, you have to continually, it's like almost like mental rehearsal, and you have to use your self-talk to actually generate your belief. So hope that makes sense. So it's kind of the difference, like I said, between constructive superposition and destructive superposition. And I'm saying that in relation to belief systems. It can either be constructive or destructive depending on what you believe and what you want to achieve. So just remember that your self-talk is critical. That is one of the biggest differences between a winner and a loser, like a champion and just a contender. It's usually their self-talk what really helps them. It's that mental rehearsal you say to yourself every day. And a lot of people, in most cases, I don't think they're very aware of that. And, they will say, well, that's not realistic. But when you're saying that, like I said, your mind doesn't know what's real. The only basis your mind really has is your own belief system, what you convince yourself to be real for you. And when you're saying, for example, I am fill in the blank, you're actually embedding that into your subconscious. So when you're saying I am a loser, you're continually doing that, you're embedding that into your subconscious. So you have to be very, very careful what you're saying to yourself. You have to be very aware of the triggers you're actually setting up and the kind of traps you're actually creating for yourself. So hope that makes sense. So kind of just to recap it again, just because it's cool. So when you have a belief, the only way to make it stronger is to continue believing it and again reinforcing it so it becomes a stronger belief. And this again, it's constructive, it builds off each other. When you have a belief and then talk yourself out of it or allow someone else to talk you out of it, the waveform becomes weaker and your belief diminishes. So just keep that in mind. I know it's a little bit confusing, but again, just keep it in mind that you have to really reinforce your own beliefs sometimes, and you have to be willing to continue to believe something. So I hope you enjoyed that video, and I'll speak to you soon. Post on it. See you later.